Good morning, Greg from Greg's Aquariums. Today I'd like to go over with you what it takes to keep my 125-gallon sumpless reef tank going. So I'm going to get out of the picture and let you enjoy my tank while I let you know what I do to maintain this beautiful reef tank. So I want to tell you a little bit about my tank. This is my third sumpless reef tank. I've had a 55-gallon and a 72-gallon reef tank previously. I've been keeping reef tanks for about 12 years, and my current 125-gallon tank was established about 3 years ago. It's a mixed reef with SPS, LPS, and soft corals. I have some sponges and tube worms along with a lot of microfauna inside there as well. I've currently got 10 fish. Hopefully you can see most of them during this video. They're a little bit shy, but I'm sure that some of them will come out. I also have 3 large brittle stars and an assorted cleanup crew. I started my tank with 3/4 live rock and about 1/4 dry rock. I've got a total of about 100 pounds of live rock in there, and I keep about a 1-inch sand bed. My current method, the sumpless method, doesn't seem to work too well for Acropora. I did have an Acropora frag in there, but it ended up dying. It took about a month or two, but it did die. I'm not sure, if it would sustain a different type of Acropora or not, but I don't want to try it again because I haven't had much success with Acropora with my method. But as you can see, I do have success with the corals that are in there. The current corals that I have are the Palau green Nephthia. I've got a bunch of zoas. I got plating and branching Montipora, Favites. I've got torch and frog spawn. I've got Pocillopora, mushrooms. I've also got blue and brown polyps, which came in as hitchhikers. The reason I keep the brown polyps is because it's attached to a rock that has my tube worm on it, my Hawaiian duster there on the right. If that tube worm dies, which so far I've had it for a couple years at least, then I'll probably just dump that whole piece of rock to get rid of those polyps. But it is not touching any of the other rocks in the aquarium, so they just stay on that one rock. As far as the blue star polyps, or clove polyps, excuse me, I like those. So I'm hoping that they'll expand a little bit. Right now I just have a little clump of them in my aquarium. I want to go over a little bit about what I do for maintenance, but first I want to tell you about my equipment. So the tank itself is an Aqueon 125-gallon. It's 6 foot long, 19 inches wide, and 24 inches deep. I keep glass covers on the top of my tank, which I clean frequently so that the light can get through, and I just set my lights on top of the glass covers, as you can see. I have an Aqua C Remora Pro hang on the back skimmer, and I use a Danner Mag 3 pump. I've got a CPR Aquafuge 2 hang on the back refugium that holds 3.6 gallons of water. I've got a little bit of live rock rubble and some chaeto growing in there. I also put GFO and mesh bags in there under the inflow pipe. It's filled with all kinds of pods and mysid shrimp and etc. I use one Hydor Coralia 2,750 gallon per hour circulation pump, and I use one 1,150 gallon per hour hydro circulation pump. I use one 250 watt Jaeger Eheim heater, excuse me. And my lighting is all LED. I have 4 current orbit regular light on there and 2 current orbit pros. I keep the blues at 100% and the rest of the spectrums at 40%, and I run my lights for about 12 hours a day, including my refugium, which I keep on the same timer. As far as maintenance, I'm a firm believer in water changes for a sumpless reef tank. I make a 25-gallon water change in this tank once a week. I use a bucketless water change system, and I keep my salinity at 1.025. I have HANA checkers and API test kits, etc. that I use to monitor the water quality, and I use RODI water when I do my water changes. One thing that I do not do is I do not vacuum the sand bed. I used to do that, but every time I do that, I end up getting cyano, and I also get a lot of my worms and different things get sucked out, and my bed just does not do well when I vacuum it. So I don't vacuum it, and it's filled with tiny brittle stars. I mean, just hundreds of them. Worms, different types of pods, and I have those Nasera snails in there to keep it turned over. And it seems to do really well. If I just leave it alone, it stays nice and bright and white, as you can see. And so I don't vacuum it at all. I do blow off the live rock with a turkey baster once a week. I blow all the debris and detritus out of the rock, and hopefully some of it gets sucked up into the skimmer. I don't dose my tank with anything except for Kent Super Buffer once in a while for the alkalinity, but I believe the frequent water changes keep the supplementation up and allow these corals to grow. I've fragged the corals pretty frequently, and I've sold frags, traded in frags, etc. And they seem to grow pretty well. Overall, this is a fairly easy, simple system that I think anyone can do. You don't need a sump. I'm not saying sumps are bad or anything like that. I'm sure a sump is great, and one of these days maybe I will have a sump. But for 12 years I've maintained reef tanks without sumps, and I think that they do pretty well. And so anyone that has a tank that doesn't have a sump attached to it or whatever, and you decide you want to go saltwater reef, then you could try my method, and hopefully it will work for you as well as it worked for me. Have a good one, reefers. I'll talk to you later.